Hello, hello, hello. We are back. We're back. Okay, so we are doing Chapter 11, Multi-Step Equations and Inequalities, focusing on Lesson 7, solving multi-step inequalities. This is the last section in this chapter. So, we are solving multi-step inequalities. So a lot of things when we did multi-step equations, it's going to kind of be the same process. The only thing you have to remember is to reverse the inequality symbol, if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Remember, you have to flip that sign. I'm going to write it. Flip that sign. Flip that sign. Okay, thank you, Dragon. That's enough. Okay, so yeah, two-step inequalities can be solved exactly like equations, except for this one thing. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip that sign. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve a problem and see how it goes. So we're going to solve this problem right here. This is just a two-step inequality. It's going to be very similar to a two-step equation, except if we have to divide or multiply by a negative number, we have to flip that sign. And then after we do it, we're going to graph the inequality. Okay, so let's go for it. We are trying to get x by itself on this side of the inequality, right? Right now, it is not by itself. There's a lot going on. But this negative 3x, we're going to leave that to the very end, okay? So that means we're going to get rid of this positive 35 first. So to do that, we're going to do the inverse operation of a plus 35, which would be of addition, which would be subtraction. So we're going to subtract both sides by 35. Okay, the positive 35 and the negative 35 are going to cancel each other out. On this side of the inequality, we're left with negative 3x, which is greater than negative 25 minus 35. So we have a negative and a negative. So when you have two negatives, remember the rule is you keep the negative and you just add the two numbers together. So I'm going to add 25 plus 35. So I'm taking that little problem, I'm taking it to the side away from my inequality. And I'm just adding it. 5 plus 5 is 10. Write the 0, carry the 1. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So those two, negative 25 and negative 35 equal a negative 60. Perfect. So x is not by itself. It's close. I need to get x by itself. So what's around x? Well, what's around x is this negative 3. Well, how is negative 3 related to x? It's related to x through multiplication. So we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by a negative 3. Wait, hold up. We just divided both sides by a negative 3. We need to flip that sign. So we need to flip it. Okay, cool. So then let's simplify this side. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So that equals 1. 1 times x is x. And let's simplify this. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then we just need to go 60 divided by 3. Well, what is 60 divided by 3? 60 divided by 3. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. And then we subtract. 6 take away 6 is 0. Drop down that 0. 3 does not go into 0, so it goes in 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. And no remainder. We're done. Woohoo! So our answer is 20 right there. So that is our answer. X is, wait, did I happen to flip that sign? Oh, no. I flipped it right here. Okay, good. So I flipped it. So this is where I flipped it. Flip it. Okay, okay, good. So I flipped it. So right here, here's our answer. X is less than 20. So now I'm going to graph it. And I love to graph inequalities. Graphing inequalities is one of my favorite things to do. I'm going to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Okay, so here we go. We have to find the 20. So x is less than 20. So we're going to find the 20, and we have to determine if it's an open circle or a closed circle. It does not include 20, so it's going to be an open circle. And then x is less than 20, so it's going to be all the numbers that are smaller. So there we go. It goes like that. That's how you graph that inequality. One of my favorite things to do. Mine too. I love to graph inequalities. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next problem. So we are going to solve these inequalities, and then we're going to graph each solution set. So let's start with problem 2. So we have to get x by itself. We're going to do a couple of these together. We're going to get x by itself. Okay. Is x by itself on this side of the inequality? No, it is not. So we have to, what do we know? We know that we're going to keep this 7x together until the very, very end. So we have to get rid of this plus 32. The inverse operation of addition is subtraction, so we're going to subtract 32 to both sides. The positive 32 and the negative 32, they cancel each other out. We're left with 7x on this side is less than 18 minus 32. So 18 is positive, 32 is negative, so the signs are different. We take the difference. So we're going to take the difference between 32 and 18. So I'm going to take that over here to my side piece of paper. 32 and 18, and I'm taking the difference of the two. The bigger numbers on top. I'm ignoring the signs at this point. I'm just looking at the number 18 and 32 to find the difference. So the 2 is not big enough. I need to borrow from the 3, making that a 2. This becomes 12. 12 take away 8 is 4. 2 take away 1 is 1. So our answer is 14, but we need to determine if it's a positive 14 or if it's a negative 14. So I'm just going to look at these two numbers, 18 and 32, and which number is bigger. 32 is bigger and 32 is negative, so that means that our answer is going to be a negative 14. Perfect. Okay, we're not done. We still need to figure out what x is. Is x by itself? No, it is not. There is a 7 right next to the x. Well, how is that 7 related to x? It's related to x through multiplication. So we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be division. So we have to divide both sides by 7. Now, we're dividing both sides by a positive number, so we don't really do anything. Everything just stays the same. We just simplify each side of the inequality. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 1 times x is x. We keep the sign the same because we're dividing by a positive number. And then we simplify this right over here. Negative 14 divided by 7. We have a negative divided by a positive. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So our answer is x is less than negative 2. And so now it is one of my favorite things to do in the world. Mine too. We're going to graph this inequality. So we're going to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Woohoo! Here we go. Okay, so we are going to find the negative 2. The negative 2's here. Is it going to be an open circle or a closed circle? Well, it does not include negative 2, so it's going to be an open circle. And x is less than negative 2, so it's all of the numbers that are less than negative 2, which are this way. So there we go, right there. That is how we graph it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do number 3 together. So we're trying to figure out what t is. We need to get it by itself. We know that we have to keep this together, t divided by 4 until the very, very end. So we have t divided by 4 minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 5. Okay, so we're trying to get t by itself, but we have to get rid of this negative 8 first. So we have to do the inverse operation, which would be a positive 8 to both sides. The negative 8 and the positive 8 cancel each other out. We're left with t divided by 4 on this side is less than or equal to negative 5 plus 8. So we have a negative number and a positive number being added together. So the signs are different. You take the difference. So we're going to take the difference between 8 and 5. The difference between 8 and 5 are 3, but we need to figure out, is it a positive 3 or a negative 3? We look at 8 and 5, which number is bigger? 8's bigger and 8's positive. That means our answer is going to be positive. Perfect. Okay, we're still trying to figure out what t is equal to. We have t divided by 4. So we have to do the inverse operation of division, which would be multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by a positive 4. We can multiply by a positive number. Everything stays the same. No worries. We look to cross cancel. When we're doing this fraction multiplication, the 4's cancel out, become 1. We have 1 times t, which is t, is less than or equal to 3 times 4, which is 12. And now it is one of my favorite things to do. We're going to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Me too. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Okay, here we go. So t is less than or equal to 12. So here is 12. It includes 12, so it's going to be a closed circle. And t is less than or equal to 12, so it's going to go this way like this. Okay? So yeah, that's how you do it. Okay, I want you to try number 4 on your own. So where's my friend the pause dragon? Remind you to pause. So go ahead and figure out what F is, graph it. When you get done, press play, and we'll see how you did. All right, see you in a bit. See you in a bit. All right, we're back. Let's go ahead and see how you did. So we're trying to determine what F is. Okay, that means we have to keep this 6F together to the very, very end. Okay. We have 6F minus 6 is greater than 48. So we have to get rid of this negative 6. So the inverse operation of negative 6 would be a positive 6. We're going to add 6 to both sides of the inequality, like that. This negative 6 and that positive 6 cancel out and become 0. We're left with 6F is greater than 48 plus 6, which is 8 plus 6 is 14. Write the 4, carry the 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. So yeah, we're still trying to determine what F is. We have 6F. So we're trying to get F by itself. There's a 6 there. It's related to F through multiplication, so we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times F is just F is greater than 54 divided by 6 actually ends up being 9. So our answer is F is greater than 9. And now it is time to do one of my favorite things. We're going to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Okay, here we go. So, got to find the 9. It's going to be an open circle because it does not equal 9. And F is greater than 9, so it's going to be all the numbers right over there. So, boom, that's how you graph it. Okay, if you got that right, good job. 2 thumbs up for you. Okay, we're moving on to problem number 5, 6, and 7. And for these ones, I want you to go ahead and try to do them on your own. So I want you to solve them. So you are going to work out 5, 6, and 7. So solve them and also graph them here. And remember, what you have to do is if ever you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip that sign. Flip it. Okay, cool. Where's our friend the pause dragon reminding us to pause your device, and then when you get done, press play, and we'll go over the answers. All right, see you in a bit. See you in a bit. Okay, we are back. Let's go ahead and start with number 5. Negative 4w minus 13 is greater than or equal to 15. So we're trying to isolate w. We're trying to get it by itself. And what we see here is we have to leave this negative 4w to the very, very end, which means we need to get rid of this negative 13. So the inverse operation of subtracting by 13 would be to add by 13 to both sides of the inequality, which is what we're going to do. All right, cool. So we have negative 13 plus 13. That's going to cancel out and become 0. Yeah, that's what that does. Okay, and then we're left with negative 4w on this side is greater than or equal to 15 plus 13. 5 plus 3 is 8. 1 plus 1 is 2. Perfect. We are trying to determine what w is. Okay, so we have to get it by itself. Right now there's a negative 4 that's being multiplied by w, so we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be division. We're going to divide both sides by a negative 4. wait, hold up. Okay, we just divided both sides by a -4, so we have to flip that sign. We need to flip it. Okay, we're going to flip it. So we're flipping it, and we flipped it. Okay, cool. So now we're going to simplify. We have a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times W is W. W is now by itself. Woohoo! Awesome. Okay, now we are going to simplify this side. We have 28 divided by -4. That is a positive divided by a negative, which means our answer is going to be a negative. 28 divided by 4 is actually equal to 7. So there we have our answer right there. Nice and simple. W is less than or equal to -7. So if you got that right, woohoo, good job. But now it is time to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Me too, it's my favorite thing. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph this inequality. So we have to find the -7. The -7's here. We need to figure out, is it an open circle or a closed circle? It can equal -7, so it is a closed circle. There it is, right there. And W is less than or equal to -7, so that means it's going to be all the numbers over here. So boom, that's how you graph it. If you got both of those right, good job. Okay, let's move on to number 6 and see how you did. Okay, number 6, we're trying to isolate K and get K by itself. We have K divided by -5 minus 6 is less than -9. So we know by looking at this is a two-step inequality. We have to save this K divided by -5 to the bitter end. Okay, so that means we have to get rid of this -6 by doing the inverse operation of -6, which would be the inverse operation of subtraction would be addition. So we're going to add both sides, add 6 to both sides of the inequality there. -6 plus 6, that is 0. And then we are left with K divided by -5 here is less than -9 plus 6. So this is a negative. This is the positive. The signs are different. So when the signs are different, you take the difference. So we're going to take the difference between 9 and 6. The difference between 9 and 6 is 3. But we need to figure out, is it a -3 or is it a +3? We look at 9. We look at 6. 9 is bigger. 9 is negative. So that means our answer is going to be negative. All right, cool. So not quite done yet. We still need to get K by itself. And K at the moment is being divided by -5. So we have to do the inverse operation of division, which would be multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by a -5. Wait, hold up. We're dividing both sides by a -5. That means we need to flip that sign. Uh-oh. Okay, so we're going to flip it. We're going to flip it. Flip it, flip it, flip it. You have just been flipped. Okay. So then we're going to simplify this side of the inequality. We got a negative times a negative, which is a positive. When we cross-cancel these fractions, because we're multiplying them, they both have a common factor of 5, so they become 1, and all of this is 1 times K, which means K is now by itself. Now let's simplify this side of the equation. We have a -3 times a -5. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. So that is our answer. K is greater than 15. And now it is time to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Okay. Need to find the 15. Where's the 15? The 15's here. Is it an open circle or a closed circle? It does not include 15, so it is an open circle, and K is greater than 15, so it's going to be everything over there. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I just love it so much. I love it too. Oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing in the world. Okay, on to problem number 7. This is the last one. Let's go ahead and see how you did. We need to figure out what P is. P is right here. Okay, we got to get P by itself. We have 7 minus 2P is greater than -5. Cool. We know we have to keep this -2P together until the bitter end. So the first thing we need to get rid of is this 7. Now, how is this 7 related to P? Well, it's related to P through subtraction. This one is a tad bit tricky, okay? So when you see it's related to through subtraction, What that means is you're either going to be using addition or subtraction. But remember, we want to get rid of this 7. What is this 7 right now? Is this a positive 7 or is it a negative 7? This is a positive 7. We want this to turn into 0. So if we have a positive 7, the only way we can turn this into 0 is by subtracting 7 to both sides. Because what is 7 minus 7? It's equal to 0, and it cancels out. And that's exactly what we want to happen. Okay? So this is a positive, so the inverse operation for that positive would be a negative number. Okay? So that's how that one worked. Okay, so that's 0. We're left with negative 2p is greater than negative 5 minus 7. So here we have a negative and we have another negative. So whenever we have two negatives that we're adding together, that means the sign's going to continue to be negative, and we're going to go 5 plus 7, which is 12. All right, cool. So we're trying to figure out what p is. We need to get p by itself. So we need to get rid of this negative 2. Well, how is the negative 2 related to p? Well, it's related to p through multiplication. So we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be to divide both sides by negative 2. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. Wait, hold up. We need to flip that sign. We just divided both sides by a negative number, so we have to flip it. Gotta flip it. Cool. Okay, so we flipped the sign. Great. Now let's simplify this. We have a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So now we have p all by its lonesome over there by itself, which is exactly what we need. We have negative 12 divided by negative 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So there we have our answer right there. P is less than 6. So now it is one of my favorite things to do. We have to graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Graph it, graph it. We love to graph it. We love to graph inequalities. Okay, so let's graph it. We have to find the 6. The 6 is here. Do we have an open circle or a closed circle? It does not include 6, so it's going to be an open circle. And p is less than 6, so it's all of the numbers that are less than 6, which are this way. So if you did that right and you did all 3, yokiniki mashita, you did a great job. Yokiniki mashita, you did a great job. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.